Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we watched parts 5 through 8 of the Daleks' Master Plan. So...
Oh, Lord. Well, first of all, let's start off by saying episodes 1 through 4, we were really getting into this idea that Terry Nation was, seriously... dissecting World War II with the non-aggression pact.
Yeah.
We were going to do the Daleks as the Nazis and somebody else as the Soviet Union and this, that. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8 were just a load of crap.
Yes.
Right? We got a...
Now, we should say episode 5 was okay, because that was where they were transported to the planet, and they were the invisible creatures, and then they were captured by the Daleks at the end.
But then there was a, I swear to God, Christmas episode. And the one thing I remember from that is, and again, I have this vague memory that there was a British TV show about these kind of bumbling cops. That was a big thing back in the 60s. Here in the United States, we had one called Car 54, Where Are You? But there was some kind of, not quite Keystone Cops sort of thing, but I swear it looked like a crossover episode because they got taken to the police station and there was all this real stupidity going on. And then they got out, and at the end of it, the doctor actually turned to the camera and said Merry Christmas or something like that. And then there was another episode that was New Year's, because they went back to London in 1965 and watched fireworks over...
Because it was the next episode, it was a week later, so it was New Year's.
Yeah.
And they landed in the middle of a cricket game. They didn't get out, and then they left.
Yes. Seriously, a waste of 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would have been funny in context, but... not having somebody pop out of the TARDIS in the middle of the cricket game, that kind of spoiled the whole thing for it. So anyway,
right. And now the good thing out of that last episode was they brought back the monk on the volcanic planet.
The meddling, and a completely wasted set there, because why did they need a volcanic planet if there was no volcano? We saw a volcano in the background, but it had nothing to do with the plot.
The only thing was that they landed there, and then the monk wanted to trap them there by sealing off the TARDIS, and then the Doctor immediately figured out how to get back into the TARDIS, and they left, and
yes,
that was
magic ring, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he magnified the sun. I don't know how he did that with an erupting volcano. There would have been a lot of smoke, so...
And ash.
Yeah. So that happened, and then... back on the side of the plot, the Daleks were testing the time destructor?
Yeah.
And they didn't have the real terranium because the Doctor tricked them and gave them the fake terranium. And they were going to test it out, but it didn't work. We still don't know what it does. And maybe things are starting to get a little dicey between the Daleks and Mavic Chen.
And the guy who volunteered to test the time destructor, they killed him anyway. Seriously, that made no sense, other than, the Daleks are trying to prove that they are, badass villains, I guess.
Something like that. And then, at the end, the Daleks got into their own time machine, and now they are going after the TARDIS, which, again, is, just the chase again.
Let's hope these last 4 episodes will get us back on track, because the middle of this, Act 2, I guess we would call it, was just awful. Just absolutely awful.
We said at the beginning, okay, this is 12 parts. What are they going to do in 12 parts? Well, in reality, it's 8 parts, but they had to do 4 episodes in the middle. So they ended up doing that. We do at least, once again, we have 1 episode that is complete. That will be episode 10. Episodes 9, 11, and 12 are all recons. I don't know what's going to happen in this one. I feel like we are no closer to anything. I feel like we were setting up okay, we got to start this Dalek invasion. We have to beat them, but we haven't started a Dalek invasion yet. So I really don't know what we're doing. So let's go ahead and get into the grand finale of the Daleks' Master Plan. Here we go.
Oh. All right. Giza. With only 3 of the 6 pyramids built. Oh, good. Dennis Spooner.
Well,
But didn't he write one of the crappy ones last time?
Yes, but Terry Nation wrote the Christmas episode, so he's on thin ice too.
It's interesting they go to all the trouble to animate the little circle in the back and nothing else.
Well,
Amongst Tardis lands this side of the pyramid, we should see it easily, however it disguises itself.
No, I think I'll take a look from up there. Will give me a better view.
do you think since his chameleon circuit works, just another pyramid will appear?
That seems kind of large, but
It'd be a good idea to keep your eye on the map so you can climb higher.
a sarcophagus, since that's what it appeared as last time.
Well,
He sounds very bad.
yeah. It sounds like he needs to clear his throat, but he can't.
First time he's worn a hat, isn't it?
Yeah. He does have, like, another hat, but it's not that hat.
Let's finish now. Let's go.
That's like the fifth Doctor's hat. It's just a stone.
Wait! And I need hardly remind you that the Daleks will reward failure on your part with elimination. Elimination. Thank you.
It's actually extermination, but that's alright.
Oh, you'll get it back. Have no fear.
Isn't the Doctor watching all of this?
Why, look, the Doctor has been watching with interest.
Okay, good. I was gonna say. Also, it's interesting that the monk does know about the Daleks, because up to this point, the Doctor is the only one who's really interacted with them.
Oh, they took the TARDIS inside the pyramid.
Also, I do kind of want them to shoot the monk so that he can regenerate, but that's not going to happen for a while. It's not a concept now.
Let's see you get out of the gas tank there, Doctor. Oh,
wait.
no, wait.
Wait, one more.
Conestoga wagon.
Up, and again.
A Panzer.
Is he just flipping through all the settings? Ah, that's what he was looking for. Yeah, he's going to sick the Daleks on him.
I take that back. Probably wasn't a Panzer, but definitely a tank.
I think he just stole the chameleon circuit, leaving it stranded as a telephone box.
I mean, that's your machine. Well, it's probably disguised as a sort of block of stone.
I mean, if it becomes a block of stone and they move it, how are you going to tell which block of stone is your TARDIS?
Several million blocks of stone in the pyramid. Again, a title, Golden Death, wasn't it? That maybe is supposed to be that last 2 or 3 seconds there. So, the volcano thing. That other than the title, I love the sets. Got to say, the sets look amazingly accurate, and the script is back on track anyway. So, knock on wood. Let's hope that the last 3 are just as good as this one.
I mean, it was a bit of a slower episode, but I mean, it's refreshing after the Christmas and New Year specials.
After the silliness.
Yeah. So this is the 3rd episode that Dennis Spooner has written and Terry Nation has not. What is going on in the writing room that he can't be there all 12 weeks to write this story? Like,
well, didn't one of the commenters say something that he was in the midst of trying to spin off the space security service or something like that?
Yeah.
And trying to get an American-made Dalek. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, which I guess Mission to the Unknown, was sort of like a proof of concept, basically.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, obviously a much better, I mean, yes, even though it was kind of slow, much better written episode. We seem to be back on track with the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see the monk.
Yeah, and his interactions with the Doctor are really great. It honestly does sort of feel, even though it's not quite the same. It does sort of feel like the Doctor and the Master with, later incarnations of the Doctor. It's not quite the same because the monk isn't as, brilliant. He's not quite the Moriarty to the Doctor Sherlock, but...
No. We've been watching the Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman Sherlock, and I just have to say, my only quibble with that is that Holmes would have never allowed anybody but Mycroft to call him Sherlock. Everybody called him Holmes or Mr. Holmes. So it's, I having read every one of them when I was playing Dr. Watson back in the 1980s, it's just, that's the most jarring thing, is to hear somebody actually use the name Sherlock. So forgive me for that.
Yeah, it's Sherlock and John, not Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Yes.
So
yeah, and Holmes always called him Watson or Doctor. I don't recall, other than maybe in the Curse of the Sign of Four, that he would have called him John. Most of the time, it was Holmes and Watson.
Yeah. So, slight tangent. Anyway, go watch my reactions to Sherlock. They were a lot of fun and insanity.
And if you've never seen the film Without a Clue, which stars Michael Caine as Sherlock Holmes and Ben Kingsley as Dr. Watson, it is hysterical. It's a very, very funny takeoff, because it turns out that Dr. Watson is the crime doctor. He's the guy who actually does all this, but nobody's going to accept him because, he's a short little doctor guy. So he hires Michael Caine, who is an actor, to play Sherlock Holmes for him. And again, it's very funny because he's trying to solve these crimes, and the actor just keeps improvising, doing all this other stuff that's totally, completely wrong for the character. But it's a very good film. If you've never seen it, we should try to find it for you, because I think you would like it too.
And as a way to tie it back to Doctor Who, when they were originally casting the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock show, Matt Smith actually auditioned for Dr. Watson, but they said he was way too eccentric to be Watson. And they were like, well, we already got Benedict Cumberbatch, so we can't cast you as Sherlock.
Yeah.
But that's where Stephen Moffat thought, I could cast this guy as the Doctor. So that's how Matt Smith became the Doctor. So,
yeah, I was going to say, everything, of course, I've read the entire canon, and in a lot of the I guess they call them pastiches and stuff like that. John Watson is just the salt of the earth. I mean, there's nothing eccentric about him at all. And in fact, one of the reviews when I played him was that the reviewer, who was apparently a Sherlock Holmes fan, said, Dr. Watson is an open book. I mean, you can literally read everything that he's thinking on his face. And he said that I had played it just like that you could literally see everything that I was thinking in my face. We had a really great Holmes, and the two of us, again, just played off of each other wonderfully. I really enjoyed that show. But back to Doctor Who.
Right. So yes, anyway, but the monk is not quite to that Moriarty level, though he is a nice... I guess a sort of foil. He's not really that clever. It's like, even in the Time Meddler, where it's like, okay, he has his plan, and Vicky and Stephen, they were kind of having to deal with this, but it almost felt like even in that episode, the Doctor could easily figure out and undo anything the monk tried to do. Like, the monk is not even a challenge to the Doctor.
I think that's, though, I thought that was set up pretty well, because the monk did not expect anybody, other than the, late 10th century, early 11th century people to be there. And so his plan would have baffled even the smartest people back then. But when you got Vicky and Stephen, who are from the future, and the Doctor, who's from another planet, that's when, throw a spanner in the works, as it were.
And it's also interesting that the monk recognizes the Daleks, and we can say, like, okay, well, lore that they add later on, we know that the monk is actually a Time Lord, and so that means that the Time Lords and Gallifrey already know about the Daleks, despite the fact that it was the Doctor who was the first one to interact with them. But then I guess that goes into a whole thing, because obviously it's time travel. They're Time Lords, so who knows when it really happens. Even though the Doctor is the first one to interact with them, technically, the first time the Doctor interacts with them is the first Doctor. But the first time the Daleks interact with the Doctor is actually the fourth Doctor, because he goes back and almost destroys them so that they never become a problem. So, I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. So I suppose we should just go ahead and get on to part 10.
Oh, might as well. This is the complete episode.
Yes.
Good. Yay. Do we suspect it's the monk that's in the sarcophagus? Because the Doctor was prodding him with his walking stick during the last one.
Well, I thought the Doctor was just gonna straight beat him and then leave, but he might have wrapped him up and put him in there. Of course, where is he now?
Another Dennis Spooner episode.
That's the fourth.
Based on an idea by Terry Nation. Or not.
Wait for it. There it is.
There it is.
Well, thank goodness for that.
I was hoping it would be he unwraps his like, oh, it's the monk. Just wraps him back up and puts him back in.
You, Chen, will come with us.
Personal space, please.
I was going to say, get out of my face.
Orders will not be questioned.
If you insist on this approach, I fail to see how I can be made to answer for the consequences.
Oh!
You're about to get zapped, buddy.
Yeah.
Doctor, listen carefully to what I have to say.
The Egyptian's got to be freaking out.
It is useless.
When Hyksos returns, you'll see the end of your gods.
Hyksos? No. This is way too early for Hyksos. Hyksos wasn't even a person. It was a group of people who had invaded Egypt, basically created the Middle Kingdom, and then were defeated by Akhmos.
For your sake, I hope the Doctor does not keep us waiting.
Oh, I just love the little... Yes. What's it, Dr. Evil from Austin Powers?
Yeah.
Try any more of your funny business, I'll exterminate you myself.
Ooh.
Funny business? Me?
I feel like everyone is tired of everyone else in this episode. Like, the Daleks are done with Chen, they're done with him.
I am now about to hand over the Terranium Claw to Mavic Chen.
Goodbye.
Smash the wall machine! Smash up the formation! Attack formation!
Well, they were a good distraction, at least.
There you are, get him from behind. No!
That was your own fault.
That is the directional unit of the Manx Tardis.
Directional? But with this we can get back to Kimball.
Perhaps.
But that's marvelous, Doctor.
Yes, I suppose it is.
He can fix the TARDIS.
There are two possibilities. One, it will work. Go on, Doctor. Number two, the increased energy rate will certainly destroy the center column.
So either it'll work, or it won't.
Quite scientific.
Yeah.
I didn't set course for this. The Doctor again. The Doctor.
He's on Hoth.
Yeah. Every time the monk shows up, the Doctor's just gonna take something else.
Stolen my directional unit.
Pull the main switch.
Yep. So, might not have worked. But it can't just destroy the column, because that destroys the TARDIS. I would at least think, like, okay, this is going to work enough, they can get back to Kimball, and then, the directional thing, well, we could only use it once, and then we go back to how we were.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah, because again, I'm not sure, but I think someone said, like, the TARDIS will be... the TARDIS finally got fixed by the Time Lords in the Three Doctors, which we already watched. So I don't think... That's a while, you know? This is year 3 of Doctor Who. That's year 10. So It might be a little while.
Oh, we're frozen.
I was gonna say, it exploded so much we're in recons. That's 5. 5 of 12 episodes written by Dennis Spooner.
You know, that means that that directional unit must have burnt itself out after we dematerialized.
Okay.
I wonder if you bring me that...
So they did only use it once.
Yeah, sure.
Why is it that Mavic Chen is in possession of information denied to the rest of this council?
So we are all equal partners with the Daleks on this great conquest. Some of us are more equal than others.
Unprotected speech out of turn? No.
So we're back to the Stalinisms.
This violates the agreement by which this council was assembled. Arrest him! Arrest him!
By the way, Khrushchev banged his shoe on the table at the United Nations in protest of something.
The Daleks have already left Kemble. It's probable that their invasion plans are already going ahead, and the universe can be taken by surprise because of your agreement.
Must you moralize?
Your only chance!
We must destroy the Daleks!
Destroy!
We agree to go and defend our galaxies and to organize a search for the Dalek invasion force!
Let them out, Stephan.
But first, punch him in the face.
No.
It's all right.
Love that line. Must you moralize? Have you never seen this show before?
No.
Something's gone wrong.
Well,
There must be something we can do.
Yes. Find the doctor.
very anticlimactic death for Chen, I have to say.
No, I am alive, and soon shall be master of the universe. Perhaps, Kingdom, you'd like to lead the way.
I have the power.
Of course. I'm certain the Daleks will be delighted to see you.
That's part 11.
Alright.
I'll just scratch out explosion real quick. Yeah, on the one hand, it's like, okay, hey, maybe we will get a very, ceremonious death for him, But at the same time, it's like, this guy's still alive. This guy sucks. Oh, man, oh, man. So, this is just another week off for Hartnell.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, like they filmed like a scene with him. They probably filmed it last week, and then all right, you get the day off. So, should we place bets on if the next episode is going to be written by Dennis Spooner?
I would think, being the final episode, it would be by Terry Nation, since he would have started it, and then you'd think he'd be there to round it off. But I'm not placing any money on this.
Yeah, I would think that too. Now, if the next episode is written by Dennis Spooner, that means he's written half the episodes for this serial.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, at least these last 4 are a lot better than the other 4 that we had. So.
But still, to me, they have wasted the premise that they set up in the first 4.
Yeah,
because this is getting completely off of a dissertation on World War II. Now it's just science fiction.
They had a little bit of it, when he was like, well, I'm more equal than the rest of you guys. It's like, okay, that's a clever little line you got in there.
George Orwell.
But it's like but that was it. Like I feel like maybe one of the main problems is that they set up like, there's going to be another Dalek invasion of Earth, but this time it's going to be like even bigger, and we have all these other people and stuff. But we never. The thing is, they set up that we're going to start that, and then the plot is that we're trying to stop it before it actually starts. Like we're sitting here for 12 episodes, like, okay, so when's the invasion? you said we're going to do the Dalek invasion of Earth again, but instead you gave us the chase, and not a good chase either.
No.
So,
okay, let's knock this down.
Part 12.
I'm certain the Daleks will be delighted to see you.
You know, with how close he is, like, at least just in that image, like, Stephen could easily just do that and then hit him.
She certainly could. She's trained for it.
Yeah. We've at least seen Stephen hit people before.
Including a woman.
Yeah, so... Dennis, we should have taken bets. That's half of this serial. Up.
By bringing us down here, you're doing exactly what the Daleks want.
Of course.
He's mad.
Take care, Kingdom.
You just realized that now?
I know the Doctor's here, and that he's trying to take my place. But I'll soon change that.
Why can't you understand that Daleks do not make allies?
It's a very interesting thought that he thinks the Doctor is trying to take his place. Like, no, that just... No.
Our alliance has ended.
What? But I have met you time and time again with your absurd incompetence. I, Mavic Chen, will decide when the alliance is at an end.
Honestly, you've really gotten in the way.
Fry his fritters.
Just do it.
Toast his buns.
Take him away and exterminate him. But do not fire in here. You will damage us and some of the controls.
Okay. I, Mavic Chen.
At least they give a reason why they can't just do it there.
Finally.
Oi!
Strange. Must let me know at once.
Yes, all right. What about them?
First back to the Tardis. Stephen, up with you.
No, I came back with you.
Hurry, my child, hurry.
Wondering if she was going to stay behind and let him go.
No.
Having an effect on the elements,
Then destroy him.
No, that's impossible, my dear. There's one thing I do know about this machine. It will continue until the thorium has finally burnt itself out. Our only chance is to get back to the TARDIS. Then I can neutralize it.
Oh, is it giving off, like, radiation? And he can take it more? I don't know why I just wanted them to, like, roll over him.
Roast beast.
You think I don't know?
Oh, it's aging her. Well, now we at least understand what it does.
Yeah. Was the idea then that they would take it to Earth and destroy all the people by aging them?
Yeah, or maybe even destroy the planet that way. Is he getting older too?
Looks like it.
Huh.
Sir!
Oh. There goes Sarah.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Stephen. By chance, you reversed the time destructor. Instead of time rushing forward, star racing back.
So he reversed it. I think that's the first time we've seen them.
Squids!
Well, now it's all over. Without her help, this could never have been achieved.
And that was the 12-episode Dalek Master Plan.
Okay, so that's literally 3 completely different stories. Again, started off brilliantly, slid down into nothingness, and fortunately managed to redeem some of it there at the very end, the last episode.
Yeah. Like, if you had... I mean, there's a little bit, and only a little bit, that you can take from those middle 4 episodes. Like, well, episode 5 was good. It was just, an average episode. Then, like, I feel like you could do a supercut of this, where you just cut out, you basically just cut from the TARDIS leaving to it first arriving where they first meet the monk, and then it's just fine. You could easily cut out all the Christmas and New Year's and cricket games, and nothing of value is lost.
Yeah. And here at the end, again, it's a completely different story. You lock up all the delegates. Sarah and Stephen free them. You assume because there's going to be an uprising against the Daleks, but no, they flee, and we never see them again.
Yeah.
It's like...
The only thing you can assume is that they're going back to their galaxies to raise armies against Skaro. But that's not in this episode, and I don't... Now, it would be interesting if, in the next Dalek serial, that is what we have, is the Doctor, he ends up meeting the delegates again, and he helps them with a war on Skaro.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting idea. Now, I think it's actually going to be a little while before we have the Daleks again. I think we're having at least a 1-season break, I think. I think this might be the last time that we have the Daleks and the first Doctor.
Yeah.
So...
but again, the main problem I have with it is started out with what appeared to be a brilliant premise, and even if you drop out the bad episodes in the middle 4, they don't ever come back to that, and it seems to veer off into different stories that never play out. And finally we get to, what is the time destructor, what does it actually do? And when you see it, it literally has nothing to do with anything that has happened previously.
Yeah. Now, because we've had the whole thing of, this is sort of, World War II, I could see the time destructor being used sort of like the atomic bomb, but they don't use it that way.
No.
The Doctor just turns it on, and then everyone starts aging.
Yeah.
So it did affect him. I thought, maybe there was something because he's, even though they haven't established that he's a Time Lord, but because he is different from everyone else, that it wouldn't affect him,
Yeah.
But no, it was affecting him, and it just so happened that when Stephen went out there, I guess he reversed it, and so it de-aged the Doctor, and then he got in, and then it de-aged the Daleks back into, the tiny squids that they were. So
Tiny squids.
Yeah.
The mind boggles.
I could have seen... I could see the time destructor being used sort of like the atomic bomb, but they don't do it like that.
Yeah. See, that's what we both said they were setting up. This was going to be, a race to find a way to end the war once and for all. The Nazis were trying to develop the atomic bomb. The Americans beat them to it. War ends, but then it went completely off the rails. And again, I think my biggest complaint is that, again, it would veer off into, hey, we're going this way, and then it didn't go that way. Okay, well, now it's going this way, and then it doesn't go that way. And then finally at the end, when we finally find out what it does, it's like, oh, well, this has literally nothing to do with the 11 episodes that went before it.
Yeah, and, okay, so the interesting thing is, all 4 of the episodes we watched today were written by Dennis Spooner, and we figured out he wrote half of this serial. But that means the last episode that was written by Terry Nation was the Christmas episode. So... You know what I honestly wonder? Do you think they were like, okay, Terry, we need you to do the Christmas episode. We need you to put a Christmas episode in here. And he was like, okay. And he starts writing it, and I don't know, maybe they get notes or something, like, hey, we want you to do a crossover with this, police show and stuff. I almost wonder if he got, mad. He got fed up and just, left. And so they were like, okay, well, we had Dennis, he had to write 1 episode when Terry was out, so he has to complete the serial. And then maybe, and this is total tinfoil hat mode right now, that's why there's not going to be another Dalek serial for, I think, until season 5. So, and this is season 3, so... And I know that's total tinfoil hat conspiracy theory town, but Maybe.
It could be.
It could be that.
Because, again, the ending of this saga doesn't fit the beginning.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, yeah, because it's like, okay, how do we beat the Daleks this time? You know, it's like we've had... Because the way we've beaten the Daleks, frankly, has never been good. Like, the first time, we just tossed them around with the Thals and stuff, and that was it. The second time... I don't remember what they did in the serial during the Dalek invasion of Earth. I guess it was the magnetic core. It sucked up all the Daleks.
Yeah.
But I remember that more from the movie.
Yeah. The first one, remember, the Daleks had not evolved far enough to get away from the electricity in the floor.
Yeah.
And once they turned off the electricity, the Daleks couldn't work. And then, of course, the magnetic core. So they always seem to have something that they've overlooked.
Yeah, or in the chase, they have the mechanoids, which was also sort of like, oh, well, that's convenient. Like, here's these other giant robots that'll kill the Daleks. And this time, it's like, okay, what do? We use the time destructor. Okay, well, we've been setting that up, and it's like, it ages them. And then Stephan comes out, and it reverse ages them. And it's like, okay.
Again, the thing about that is, if he had simply left it alone, and drag the Doctor into the TARDIS without reversing it, it seems to me that's the same outcome. The Daleks would have rusted and finally collapsed on their own, but de-aging them, I'm still not quite understanding how de-aging would collapse the metal, because that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it would de-age the squids inside, but that would have been better to see the top of the Dalek popping off and the squids trying to get out, and then, like Sarah, turning to dust.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, it's a mess.
And and also too, because I don't know how long it is until the regeneration happens, but this honestly felt like this should have been the point to regenerate. Like if this was a modern story, the Doctor starts aging. That's actually happened for at least one Doctor, where he throughout the entire episode he keeps aging naturally. He ages naturally over like hundreds of years until eventually he's at the point he's so old he has to regenerate. So I was honestly thinking, like, okay, I know it's not this episode, but that would have been interesting. Like, okay, the Doctor has been hit by the time destructor. He has aged so much that now he needs to renew himself. With the first regeneration. But
you do kind of see that they're setting up the fact that even if it was reversed, he aged considerably during this, and maybe in the next 2 or 3 serials, however many are left here, he can say, I'm still feeling the effects of the time destructor, and I may have to...
Yeah, you could write that in, especially because, I mean, let's be honest, Hartnell is still doing pretty well, even though, we know that he's getting towards the end of his time on this show, and so his illnesses are starting to flare up a bit. He's still honestly doing fine. Like, there was one scene where it's like he didn't sound really good, but it sounded like he just needed to clear his throat, and he couldn't because they couldn't cut away. So that was the only thing, but so they could write that in if they wanted to maybe now sort of reduce his role a little bit, let him step back every so often, and just write in like, oh, well, after the time destructor, he's feeling the effects still. It's still like a burden on his body until eventually he has to renew himself. Yeah. So could be that.
Could be.
Maybe.
Let's find out.
Nah.
But by the way, this last scene here where we've got basically the hellscape and all the rocks and everything.
Yeah.
They were in the jungle, right?
Yeah, the jungle disintegrated.
The jungle disintegrated and leaves behind... if the jungle disintegrated, it would leave behind a flat kind of savanna, not, stones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It would leave more of a desert than this.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to do a desert, but, there's a few too many, rocks in there, so...
So, minor point.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the notes.
Okay, so we started in Egypt.
Which was cool. I like that. That was a great idea.
Yeah.
And especially in the middle of the building of the Great Pyramid, because, as we know, there are ultimately going to be 6 pyramids there, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkori, and then their 3 wives. But this one, there were only 3, so it makes you wonder, it was the Great Pyramid of Khufu, and then probably one of the smaller ones was his wife, and then the third one which would be the middle one in that scene, would have been Khafre's under construction. And then Khafre, when he dies, they build the one for his wife, and then Corey has his and his wife's built. So, but I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, and definitely great sets too.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me wish that we go back there in a proper historical serial and just be there for a little while. Yeah. It was also kind of reminding me of the Aztecs a little bit too. So
again, the two things. First of all, they showed the one Egyptian pull the rock up over his head, about to throw it, which he couldn't have done. But still, what a great scene that would have been if instead of having the guy pick it up, you had a couple of Egyptians just push a rock over and mash a Dalek flat like that.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of fun. And I realized they probably couldn't have afforded to crush a Dalek costume or machine or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the Egyptian thing was well written. Again, a little slow paced, but certainly much better than the middle four.
Yeah. It was good. Again, slow paced. The Egyptians didn't really do anything, though. Like, they didn't really play a part in it. It was really just like, okay, this is a set piece for the Doctor and his companions and the Daleks and Chen and the monk to be in there, too. Yeah. So it really was just a set piece, although the Egyptians did come in and fight the Daleks at the end.
Help them escape, I think, yeah.
Got massacred by the Daleks is more accurate.
I threw in that note. It's one of the things I used to teach my world history students. The word pharaoh comes from an Egyptian word, or possibly a later Greek interpretation, of the Pera. It's like P-E-R-A-A, which was actually the name of the Great Palace. They didn't actually have a title for the pharaoh, but what happened was, it's like I used to explain to the students. Today, like if something happens in the American government, they'll say, the White House announced today that taxes will not be raised for the next 2 years. And we, of course, know that when they use the term the White House, they're basically using that as a metaphor for the entire government. Well, it happened in Egypt, too, when they said, the Great Palace has announced that, everyone will, have fewer taxes this year, or, we will have greater harvest and whatever. That name then came to be associated with the great king, and so that's how the later kings of Egypt came to be called Pharaoh, because they were basically associated with the great palace. The Pharaoh may change, but the palace remains the same. The president may change, but the White House remains the same. So, historical footnote.
Yeah, the entire time that we've been talking about Egypt, I've been trying to think of how I could work in a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, and I got nothing. But
don't you dare.
Yeah, I'll just mention it anyway, just to annoy you. So, anyway, so
let's not go there.
I also wrote down the monk and the Daleks. Again, we talked about so the monk knows about the Daleks, so they now have a reputation, even though. The first time we see them, they are just on Skaro. They haven't defeated the Thals or anything like that. And the Doctor, presumably, is the first Time Lord to meet the Daleks, which is interesting that it's like, okay, this is the first time these two are meeting, and just from that, we go so far with the Daleks, just obviously keep bringing them back, all the way to developing the Time War, which is sort of the second backstory for the modern series and stuff. So it's just interesting to think about, in context of lore that they will write later, how that works out with the monk knowing of them.
Which brings up a point: what happens to the monk? I mean,
the last thing we saw of the monk, he transported to this icy
planet, right?
So basically, he escaped, but he doesn't have the directional unit anymore, so he basically can't do anything like the Doctor. He's just sort of randomly going around to different times and places.
Yeah, it would. I think that would have helped. Again, just another 10 seconds to have him, shiver in the cold and then run back in and go, I've got to get out of here, and maybe the next place will be better. Just so that we know he's not stuck on that planet, and that at some point, maybe giving us the hope that he and the Doctor will meet up again.
Yeah, possibly. It would also be interesting if they brought him back for the second Doctor as well, and then they could start introducing regenerations and stuff. Yeah. So, well, and that was the other thing I was thinking. If the Daleks shoot the monk, could he possibly regenerate? Even though, again, that's not established for maybe 5 more episodes, I think. We're really running low on Hartnell episodes, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah. We had the 2 police phone boxes, which was funny that the Doctor specifically changed his into another police box.
Yeah, I thought, changing it into the Conestoga wagon and the royal carriage and things like that. The motorcycle stuck out because I realize it's just a visual sort of thing, but how would you get out of that?
Yeah,
it's like unscrew the gas cap and here comes the monk. That just struck me as really, really weird. I understand that's a mode of transportation, but it would have made more sense to make it into an Aston Martin or to a Corvette or something from that time period.
Well, of course, then it also begs the question, like, if it turns into like just a car, which door is the TARDIS door? Are they all the TARDIS door? Like, could you open the trunk and then you just sort of slip in, like it cuts inside to the TARDIS and you just sort of swing in there? Like, they never answer that. They always turn into just a thing, and sometimes it's like the police telephone box where it's like, okay, this already has a door, or here it turns into one of the stones that doesn't have a door but it opens anyway, and it's like we don't really know how exactly that works, like especially if there are multiple doors. So I want to know that. Now the whole thing with turning it into a police telephone box didn't really do anything.
No,
like we sort of figured, like, okay, he's turning into a police telephone box because the Daleks are going to see the monk get into his TARDIS, and then once he leaves, then they're going to get in their time machine and follow him, thinking that that's the Doctor's TARDIS. But that didn't happen, and mainly because, I guess, by the time the monk escaped, they already had the Terranium. Yeah. So I guess it could be that.
I don't know. This whole thing is like an entire can full of red herrings.
Yeah.
It's just, there were so many places that it went that then just didn't come back from. It's like, why did you do that?
Yeah. I also wrote down the speaker when they have like the sound system so that they can talk to the Doctor, within 7 miles of Giza. I just thought that was kind of funny, and obviously, cutting back to the Egyptians who are freaking out, thinking it's the gods. Well, and also because I was thinking, it hasn't been established here, but later on they established that because the TARDIS is there, it will translate all speech and everything. So the Egyptians do know what this voice is saying,
Yeah. And again, the reference there when he said, "It's the voice of the gods," he goes, "No, it's something about Hyksos," and it's like, no. I mean, that is an actual Egyptian reference, but the Hyksos were a people who came in from what today we would think of as the Levant, Israel, Lebanon, somewhere in there. They swept in with superior technology. They had chariots and horses and iron weapons and things like that. They took over Egypt, at least the delta area of Egypt, for about 100 years. And then Ahmose rose up and basically swept them out of power. And that was basically the beginning of the New Kingdom, which, again, I can't remember, would have been about 300 or 400 years after the building of the Great Pyramids. So.
Yeah, so... let's see. We had the second exchange of a hostage and the Terranium, which this one didn't go over, quite as well, since he had to give up the real Terranium, but I thought that was interesting. I also like, the Doctor never says, like, my plan is to give it and duck out while the Egyptians come in and attack the Daleks. But I was thinking, it's like, okay, yes, you will come over here. Here's the Terranium, and then he just ducks out just as fast as he can to get away. And then it just so happened that the Egyptians were there.
Yeah, that would have been nice to have him kind of do what he did with the Greeks and say, I am the incarnation of Horus or of Ra or whoever, and say, I ask you to defend us from these war machines, which was a great title for them.
Yeah.
And then that was how they made their escape. So.
Yeah. We had the directional unit, which lasted about as long as I figured. So, it is very interesting that the show establishes specifically that we will not fix the TARDIS in any way. Like, and they even have a way here, it's like, oh, I'll take the directional unit. Then the TARDIS can specifically go to one location in one time that I choose. But they don't keep it. Like, it just seems kind of weird, and especially if it's true that this isn't actually fixed until, well into the era of the Third Doctor, when then, finally, yes, we can go anywhere that we want, and then that just sticks for the rest of the show, which is another 40 years after that. It just seems odd, but, it's like, okay, we get it just this one time we get to use that, and then it burns out so that we can go back to the way we were. Because I guess originally, I understand it's like, oh, well, we can't go back to Earth, and just drop off Ian and Barbara immediately because the TARDIS doesn't work like that. But after 3 seasons, I feel like you could go ahead and fix the TARDIS and it'd be fine, Yeah. So,
but again, that would kind of throw off the episodic nature. If the Doctor knows where he's going, and then literally deliberately goes into a place where he's going to get into trouble, that would, it seems to me they almost have to have an erratic machine so that they can end up and go, where are we now? Oh, we're in ancient Troy, or oh, we're in the Aztecs. That would seem to be better for the overall pathway, I guess, the season pathway of the shows. Because again, if he knows where he's going, then they'd say, why did you bring us here to the Aztecs? These people have human sacrifice, So,
yeah, which I guess, because that's obviously what happens in modern Doctor Who, where, they'll just go to a place and, the Doctor's thinking like, oh, well, let's go meet Shakespeare. Oh no, there are witches here. What now we got to deal with that, So, like, I guess it's more that the Doctor will choose a place and he's like, okay, that's a good place. And then they go there and then they find something, and obviously, in modern Doctor Who, anytime there's like a historical, it has to be aliens there. There's no pure historicals in modern Doctor Who. So,
double toil and trouble.
Let's see. More equal. We had just a slight hint. That's where Spooner was like, Terry was trying to do this whole World War II thing. I guess I should reference that a little bit. So,
although again, if I recall correctly, that's originally from George Orwell's Animal Farm. But again, Orwell's Animal Farm, if I recall correctly, was a treatise on fascism. Where communists and Nazis, where we're all equal, but some of us are more equal than others. So again, a great reference, and then went nowhere.
Which that was around the time that it's like I'm running out of patience with Mavic Chen. Which I guess that's the thing, is that for a Dalek serial, he is honestly, I don't want to say the main antagonist, but he's at least an equal antagonist with the Daleks, and he was fine, but I don't know. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's so odd because it's like, okay, he has a lot of ambition. Well, okay, yeah, he's a villain. It makes sense. But when he has a little too much ambition, like, that's when it starts, losing me. And I guess, honestly, it could also be that it's not just that I was starting to, like, kind of get annoyed with this guy, but the Daleks were too. And it was clear that the Daleks were just waiting, like, okay, any minute now, we will be done with this guy and we can kill him. And it just took so long, to get there.
And again, what I was thinking there, like you were saying, towards the end of World War II, Hitler got that way. He became delusional. And, you remember, I don't remember we watched that film Valkyrie, but some of the military leaders of Germany actually plotted to assassinate him because they thought he was so insane that he was going to lose the war. They thought that they could still win the war militarily, but Hitler was completely off the rails. So, planted a bomb under his chair, and unfortunately he moved at the last minute or something, and he survived that. But the fact was, I kept looking for that great setup from the first 4 episodes, and there were flashes of it, and then it just literally went nowhere. It's just extremely disappointing how this turned out.
Yeah. Well, and just, again, the fact that this does set up that it's going to be the Dalek invasion of Earth 2, and then that just doesn't happen.
Never happens.
And we're past the point where they would be thinking about making the movies, because they thought, like, okay, well, we'll do a movie about the chase, and then it just, never got off the ground. They never made any more movies. I would love to see how you do a 1 hour and 20-minute movie about this serial. Like, I would assume you cut out, the Christmas and the cricket games and stuff like that. It's like, how do you fit all of this down? And also because they probably wouldn't have the same companions still. It'd just be Peter Cushing and whoever random people he has that time. So, yeah, this one's so odd.
And it's sad to lose Sarah. I mean, first of all, it's sad to lose Katerina, especially in the manner that she died. But it's really sad. You would think, she makes a perfect companion. She's trained militarily, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then they turn her to dust.
Yeah, it's very odd that, like, we're keeping Stephen as much as we are. Like, I was kind of wondering, it's like, okay, because I'm pretty sure that Stephen is not around when the Doctor regenerates, so we have to lose him pretty soon, I would think. But I was kind of thinking, like, okay, I could see him, like, maybe doing a noble sacrifice and dying here, and then maybe Sarah would just leave at some point, go back to Earth. But no, Sarah's dead. I guess that's our second companion death of the show, and Stephen's still there, which, I mean, it's good. I like Stephen enough, but I don't know.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
And again, there's a new showrunner, and a lot of the commenters have said it really went wacky during his tenure there.
Yeah, I believe this is a very short tenure as well as showrunner. And I think it was his decision to write Vicky off of the show, and she just completely just written off, like, while she was on vacation. And I think people have said that Hartnell was very mad about that because he liked the actress that played Vicky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like how this keeps going for another few episodes. Which, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a new showrunner soon. Who knows?
Maybe.
I wrote down the Dalek Supreme. I thought that was kind of interesting because they never. I don't know. For some reason, I never think of, like, a leader of the Daleks. Even though, honestly, in everything that I have seen, there is actually a leader of the Daleks. Like, there's an episode in Christopher Eccleston's era where it's like, oh, here's the Dalek Emperor, or they'll have another Supreme Dalek, or even Davros will be the leader. But I don't know. Like, for some reason, I always just think, like, because the Daleks are never, like, distinguishable from each other, like, it's they make a specific point later on when there's like a group of Daleks and they all have names actually, and it's like, okay, well, they are the odd ones. They were specifically given names so that they could be, sort of the unorthodox Daleks. So here, even, like, it's like, okay, we have a Supreme Dalek, like, okay, he's the leader. Interesting. I guess it is sort of like maybe like a Borg queen, which even with the Borg, it's kind of odd that they have a queen too. Yeah. So, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that they do have a specific Dalek Supreme.
Well, the one thing about the Borg, of course, is they constantly refer to them like bees. That, it's a hive mind, and you have to have the one mind who controls all the others, but all the others are then connected to the queen, so that they can all function as a single unit, and that doesn't seem to be what the Dalek Supreme was for.
Yeah.
But you can see what at least they were thinking of.
Yeah. Let's see. The delegates were imprisoned, and then they weren't, and they're off.
Went home, and then that was the end of it. I was like...
Again, it could be a tie-in to the next Dalek serial, which, again, is going to be a little while from now. But maybe, like, that could be interesting if, like, the Doctor, if it's the second Doctor or not, they find the delegates making war on Skaro. That could be interesting. Maybe bring back the Thals. We haven't said anything about the Thals since the first serial, and it's like, are they all right? They have to be dead if the Daleks are this powerful now. So, we had the explosion, which I had to cross out since Chen didn't die there. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, I want him to have this, over-the-top death, which will be really satisfying. And then when I got it, I was like, I would have been fine with the explosion. I'm tired of this guy. So, it's like, I got what I wanted, but at what cost,
Yeah.
So, Dennis Spooner wrote half of this serial. Again, I'm curious if there's any story, which, if okay, put the tinfoil hat back on again. Maybe this showrunner that no one liked forced Terry Nation to write that Christmas episode. He got mad. They gave it to Dennis Spooner, and then Terry Nation didn't come back for a little while.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, wasn't Terry Nation literally like in charge of all the Dalek stuff? That they couldn't do anything without him. So it seems to me that even if he got mad and left, then that would have been the end. I mean, he had control
could have
over
just taken away the Daleks. Unless they do like a contract per serial, where it's like, you know, like when it's like, okay, we want you to do a new serial, and he signs on. It's like, yes, you are allowed to make 8 or 12 episodes. So even if he does leave and is like, yeah, I'm done writing these. You made me write a Christmas special and it sucked. You know, maybe after that it's like, well, we still have the contract. We can do the remaining episodes, but we're going to have to give this to another writer. Yeah. So I don't know. Could be. Let's see. Chen died finally. Well, and again, after him, you know, with his one little pistol, and he's like, "Oh, now I rule over the Daleks." Like, dude, you're way outgunned. Like, even if you shot one Dalek, the other Daleks can shoot you, and then he does shoot one of them, and then it does nothing. Like they specifically gave him a weak gun, specifically. Yeah, maybe.
And you would also, I mean, it would have been very difficult to do this in the '60s, but realizing that he was lost, he could have, you know, taken Hitler's way out and done it himself. But instead, no, they let him escape, and then they fry his fritters down in the hallway.
Well, and again, because they also do the, you know, it's like, oh, take him away. It's like, just kill him now, you know? Which I find myself yelling on a lot of shows, actually. Merlin does that a lot, where I'm just like, just kill him already. You know, it's like, I don't care if this is Merlin and the main character, just kill him, you have him. But I do actually like that they explain, like, we can't kill him here, because he could damage the controls or the time destructors. Like, okay, I'll give you that at least. But, so yeah. And then we had the radiation and the aging, and I don't know which is worse. Katarina floating off lifeless into space, or Sarah, you know, being Thanos, basically. So, I'm not sure which of those is worse.
Well, I was, again, the image I got of Sarah was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the guy drinks from the wrong grail and then, you know, dries up and blows away. Literally the same thing. The last thing you see of him is when his skeleton falls over and he breaks into dust, and then the wind comes and blows him away.
Yeah.
He chose poorly.
Yeah. I'm curious who thought of that death for Sarah. You know, because it's like, again, you know, in the first 4 episodes, like, oh man, that was getting really dark. You know, Katarina was blown into space. We lost, you know, Nicholas Courtney in that episode. And then finally in episode 12, we sort of have that again, where she just completely dissolves, you know, disintegrates away. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, Merry Christmas, kids. You know how we had that goofy Christmas episode? Now back to death.
Yeah, it just, and I know we say this all the time, or we probably shouldn't, but having Sarah take hold of the time destructor and or you know, pushing the doctor inside the ship and then closing the door and then, you know, basically going back and trying to turn it off or whatever, just so that her sacrifice would mean something. You know?
Yeah. Like, she went back for the doctor and then she died because of it, you know? It's like it.
But you know, give her the heroic death of getting the doctor inside the TARDIS, just like, I mean, Katarina, let's face it, did die somewhat heroically, because she was able to get rid of the last bad guy, but unfortunately, you know, took herself with it. So it just, one little thing like that would have been so much more satisfying than to watch her just, you know, drop into the dust and blow away.
Yeah. And of course, you know, she happened to die just before Stephan came out and reversed the aging and was able to save the doctor, but not her. Yeah. So yeah.
A minor thing too. I mean, if she's going to turn into dust, which would, you know, theoretically take hundreds of years, wouldn't the cloth of her uniform also have deteriorated so that there'd be nothing left of it either?
Yeah, but yeah, it would have.
I mean, that's how That's how minuscule we're nitpicking here, because we're just so extremely dissatisfied, disappointed with where this started and where it ended up.
This is our first 12-parter of the series. Now, I don't know if there's many. I don't think there are. I don't think they really exceed 7 episodes. Now, I know there's like one in the 6th Doctor's era that's like 14 episodes. It's like an entire season is one story arc, but people tell me that's really, really good. It's it's gotta be better than this at least. Yeah. So this was,
it's not that it was bad. It's that it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Right? It started off really well. It went horribly wrong in the middle, and although the end was interesting, it had nothing to do with the beginning.
It did try to recover in these last 4 episodes, but it
didn't get back to its original premise.
Yeah, it didn't really go anywhere, and it just down to the next Dalek invasion of Earth. We just did not have that at all. The Daleks didn't really leave Kimball at all, so yeah. And of course, technically, this was a 13-part serial because we started with Mission to the Unknown, which was also an interesting episode. Yeah. So, yeah, this really just happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
And
what's up next? Do we know?
Let's see. Next up is the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve.
So this is another historical, because that's in France, and it's the Catholics against the Protestants. I mean, I'm assuming that's with that name. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it is another completely missing episode. But the next one after that is a complete serial, which will be nice. Yeah, it looks like we're going to kind of alternate between complete and completely missing for a little while, and then, and yeah, actually after that complete serial looks like the last one of that showrunner. And then, yeah, we are right on Hartnell's exit, so
we got Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve.
Yeah.
The Ark, Celestial Toymaker, Gunfighter, Savages, War Machines. That doesn't sound good.
Nah. That, yeah. I wonder what that could be.
Let's hope that's not more Daleks.
I don't know.
All right, and then the Smugglers and the 10th Planet.
Yeah.
And then the 10th Planet is Hartnell's exit.
I believe so.
Yeah. I think that's what some of the commenters have said.
Yeah, so
okay, we're done.
We're done.
Stick a fork in us.
With all that being said, goodbye. That's that. Well, guys, thanks for joining us on our journey through this. If you want to rewatch it all, there is a playlist you can go click on. You can also support me on Patreon.
Please.
You can subscribe. That's also a button. And you can follow me on social media with the links below in the description. See you guys next time.